Now available from upstart company Gamera 3D, the Goodman cut. It's the classic original Gamera, but with a funky retro-dimensional kick. No special equipment needed, a love for giant monster mayhem in 3D mandatory. The signed limited edition DVD is available at spacebrains3d.etsy.com. That's spacebrains3d.etsy.com.
So I am here. It is Sunday afternoon. I am with Dan Persons. I am Jim Freund. And we're going to do something that that I would always like to do and that we've been wanting to do for a little while. But next week is not good, just before the Oscars. The Oscars, what day are the Oscars this year?
I should know. I should know the date, shouldn't I?
Or no, it's not the 9th, because I know the 7th
No,
is.
it's not the 9th. I think it's the week following.
Okay.
I think we've got like 2 more.
Yeah, well,
weeks,
I'm booked
it's on a Sunday.
I'm booked for the 9th, so
yeah,
so this is as good a time to do it, and also be. We're not. I don't think we're going to necessarily predict, as simply talk about what we have. And
I'm at a loss this year as far as predictions are concerned, and I've never been good at it anyway. So
yeah, and it doesn't. And even if one is good at it, it doesn't go the way that one thinks it shall.
Bingo.
So at any rate, I think that gives people an idea of the purposes. We're simply going to talk about not just the awards and award season, which is coming to a close, thankfully, but we're going to focus on what is in the awards, that specifically that's genre, because that's our beat. So this isn't going to be all about women talking and other fine films, and also because people have a tendency to talk about them less. We're going to discuss shorts, which you did the speed dating review of last week.
Of necessity, yes.
Yeah. Well, this is far better time slot, but it's only 1 hour.
Yes, indeed.
And 1 hour is 55 minutes.
Yes, and not even that. And as far as one of the animated shorts is concerned,
the show is 55
I could do
minutes.
3 hours on that, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. When I say 55 minutes, the show is 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Trust me on that. Yeah. Okay, so Dan, tell us a little bit about you for our files.
For the files, okay, just to introduce myself, yes, I am Dan Persons. I've been a long time film journalist and critic. A lot of the times that has focused on genre media, science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Presently, in addition to my gig here on Hour of the Wolf as house critic or house media critic, what I've also been doing is a regular gig over at Tor.com. I have a column there called the SF Path to Higher Consciousness, in which I take a look at films that I think profoundly affect the way we view ourselves in the world, and try to figure out what the filmmakers have done to inspire that reaction in us. And also right now I am the implementer and mastermind behind a process called Space Brains 3D, which is a process to take two-dimensional film right now public domain properties, and convert them to 3D, hopefully for home distribution and maybe one day even theatrical distribution.
Yeah, I know Max. I haven't seen him yet because I couldn't find the glasses.
I'll
But
send you.
Max Schmid has been very taken with what you're doing there. He likes it a lot.
I want to talk with Max about that. I want to find out his interest.
Yeah, he just tells me, "Hey, it's real interesting." That's what one gets. So, at any rate, how well last week on the show, as I said, you were discussing the animated shorts,
Right.
of which I've seen very few. I've only seen the one that's on Apple Plus.
Right.
Uh,
The boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse.
right.
That's the one you said. My apologies.
And it was.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that more.
Well, we're into it now.
Okay.
We're already 6 minutes into the show.
So. Okay, so before that, before we get into the specifics, I just want to point out one thing to your listeners, in case anybody is thinking of binging the Oscar-nominated Best Picture films. I just want to provide a little bit of advice. Do not watch Top Gun Maverick right after you've watched All Quiet on the Western Front. It will not go well.
Yeah.
It's ironic that they're both on the same.
Let's go from bottom up.
Yes.
And we've already named what
okay.
So
let's get back to that. Yeah. Okay. So when I did the review last week, I did mention the boy, the mole, the fox, and the horse. And because of the amount of time that I had,
a British animated
film, but with the involvement of J.J. Abrams.
Really?
Yes. Bad Robot was one of the production companies, and J.J. Abrams is involved, which is one of the many mysteries about this film. And
there are a lot of people that would point out that not everything that J.J. Abrams turns out is pure gold.
Boy, howdy. In this particular case, and
I like a lot of his stuff.
I do too, and if I hear J.J. Abrams is doing something, I say, okay, I'll consider that.
About this short,
which
runs about a half hour. It was
but I think it's 25 minutes or 35 minutes, something like that. And like I said, what frequently happens with the Best Animated Shorts category is that there frequently turns up a nominee that comes from Great Britain. It usually runs about a half hour. It's got that very tatty sort of British attitude to it.
Well, it's also, one should point out, made for little kids. Yeah.
It's family friendly is the way I would say it.
That's a way to say it was made for
because like there was it was either last year or the year before. The film was, I think it was called Birdie Birdie, and that was done by Aardman Animation, and as you know, they straddle sort of
but
the realms of
Aardman really does aim for the family. This did not.
Here again, I think this may have been presenting itself as for kids, but I think in some ways it was shooting for the appreciation of adults. Let me get into it. The quick synopsis.
I would say from the tolerance.
Yeah. The quick synopsis of it is that, as I mentioned before, there's a boy, he's lost, and the titular animals propose to help guide him home. Notice how I phrased that. And when I did the summary last week, I was being very careful to sort of tread the line because the animation is very good. The animation is beautiful. I understand the intent of the film, but the thing that I did not say during the review that I wanted to hold back on to give the film its due, but to be frank about it, I absolutely loathed the film.
Mhm.
um,
I didn't. I found it, didn't excite me, but it didn't bother me either.
there
I
was
wouldn't go out of my way to see just that. But this year, the animated shorts are again all clumped together and can be seen in movie theaters.
right now. Yeah,
So,
I think there are still a few days
you
left.
can't go see one and not another.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I don't want to direct people on how to watch film. If you want to watch a film, go and watch the film. And hopefully, if you do watch the film, you will enjoy the film. I
Yeah.
wouldn't
Well,
take that away
in
from
previous years, through the pandemic, they were showing them piecemeal on
streaming.
streaming
Yeah.
and in
Yeah.
various ways. In the case of this one,
It's not happening this year. Yeah.
this one was made for Apple Plus TV.
Yeah. So that you
So
will very likely, yeah,
so if
find
you
it.
are so if you are a subscriber to Apple Plus, you can go and determine it for yourself.
Find it there. The When we got done with the film, my significant other turned to me and she said, "It's kind of like Winnie the Pooh, isn't it?" And I realized, no, it's not
No,
like Winnie the Pooh. It's like a Winnie the Pooh calendar. You know how it is with the Winnie the Pooh calendar? It's like you flip the pages and there's like an image of Piglet doing something, and there's like a little aphorism
I
printed
I
underneath,
I
out of
I
context.
only really care for the Ernst Shepard
The
illustrations.
well,
Yeah,
that's what they do. They take the
I grew up
yeah,
with the books,
yeah,
and I'm not particularly big on the
yeah.
Disneyfication of Winnie the Pooh. They haven't been bad. There was one movie they made, and I think it was with new producers that was even good.
Mhm.
But outside of that, uh, the best non AA Milne Winnie the Pooh was when WBAI did two Winnie the Pooh stories live on stage at Hunter College Auditorium in a concert with Judy Collins and the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and there was a third act.
Mhm.
And, oh yes, it was a movie from the Partisan Theater, Papoon for President.
Ah, getting back to the boy,
Yeah,
the horse, because um, the the entire issue with me is that it's structured as here again. It's this very kind of precious Winnie the Pooh-ish setup, but the structure is all weird where there will be an event and then one of the characters will flat out come and expound on some sort of aphorism. And when the film started, my first impression was, is this going to be a Catholic thing? Is a lion, a witch, and a wardrobe going to show up at some point? And the more I got into it, the more I watched it, the more it felt more Zenish, more Buddhist than Christian. And actually, I looked up the co-director of this film is also the author of the kids' book that it's based on. And by the way, among other things, what this guy has done is he has worked with Nelson Mandela. He's also involved in a project that helps low income and no income families in Zambia become beekeepers. So he's not exactly the deep. At least my impression is he isn't the Deepak Chopra type. He isn't trying to expand a brand. I think he's legitimate. But the thing that I saw is that on Amazon, they sell a package that has this book and a book by the Dalai Lama. Now that could just be coincidence, but
And
there's
that's neither here nor there in reviewing the
it
movie.
seems to be all I'm saying is that the person who created this seems to me to be legitimate, but something went wrong in the transition from book to film, and I'm still wondering. We did mention that J.J. Abrams is involved in this.
You did say that, yes.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what J.J. Abrams' presence is there.
He owns a production company.
Oh yes, I know he owns a
doesn't need
production
more
company,
than that.
but why this project in particular?
I don't know. He does 30, 40 a year.
Well, maybe, but still, this I find his involvement in it curious. In any case, and on top of the fact that I was thinking about this afterwards, and I was trying to come up with the arguments against my reactions, and I was thinking of a person approaching me after I had said all the stuff that you've just heard and saying, "Didn't you know?" And my first,
but one shouldn't have to know. It doesn't matter.
But in this particular case, I feel I do.
We have 20 or 30 things to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. You want to move
more than a third of the way.
Yeah.
Through this conversation.
Let me just say this is that the only way, there are two ways, but one of the ways that I felt that this film could justify itself is that if it was actually talking about death. And I guess I can't go further into that, but I can see that as
I wouldn't look that deep into it.
Maybe.
I don't think it was trying to be that deep into it. If it reflected the philosophy of the author, that's fine, but I don't think that's the message that
I would say if you look further into it, it doesn't quite scan either. But
there's no need to look into it. It's as far as I can tell, for little kids.
Yeah. About death. No.
Moving along.
So okay, let's go into the other end of the spectrum. And talk about an ostrich told me the world is fake, and I think I believe it, which is a stop motion animated film out of Australia. It would be my pick for the award. It probably will not win it. The Boy the Mole.
We don't have to talk about who's going to win, because this is one of those deals in which it made the cut of nominees.
Yeah, it's my preference, but
okay.
What I found interesting about it is that the high concept summation of it is that a stop motion character discovers he's stop motion. What makes it interesting is the format by which the tale is told, in which case in the center of the frame is framed the monitor of a stop motion camera. You can see like the frame numbers and the graphic markings to show how to position it in the frame. And all of the action takes place. Most of the action, it does break out occasionally, but the action takes place within that frame. And then around that monitor in the background, out of focus, you can see the animator working on the stop motion sequences. So if you've ever seen like a Leica film or a Henry Selick film, and you stay
to the point, an Aardman film,
or not, they don't do it with Aardman. I don't think they do it with Aardman. Henry Selick and Leica do. If you stay for the closing credits, they will actually pull back the curtain and show you the actual techniques that they use to film the sequences with the armatures that get digitally removed in place, and all of that. And this is the same thing, except that when you watch it with Leica and Aardman, when you see it with Leica and Selick, there is no textural context to it. It's just a little fillip to make you go, oh, isn't that wonderful? In this particular case, they use it as to provide.
It's part of the show.
It's part of the show, but it's also the subtext of what the character is going through, so that when at one point he walks through a closet and falls into a bin that has identical identical heads of himself.
Two
and
down, then, 3 to go, just in the shorts, and 20 minutes left.
Okay. When he falls into the bin, and then later on he tries to convince the other characters of this, and he opens the closet, and instead there's an actual closet there. You understand what's going on behind the scenes, and the animator being in control of things, and that worked for me. Okay, you wanna move on? Let's move on to My Year of Dicks, which was another film that's actually based on a book that I think is called My Notes to Boys or something like that. And it was written by a woman who actually works in, I believe, sitcoms. She works in television writing, and it was about her torturous teen years discovering her own sexuality. And what stood out for me about this is that the director mixes various animation forms to represent her emotional states. And so at one point, when she's kind of giggly and ebullient, she will turn into a dish-eyed anime girl.
So is this 2D animation hand-drawn?
This is 2D animation. I believe it does venture into 3D. I don't think it's stop motion. I believe it's CG animation as well. So there are all these different formats for that.
And did you like it? Yes or no?
I really did like it. Here again, it was, well, for one thing, it was the way that she used, the director used styles to express the mood, but it was also the text as well, which is funny and exceedingly brutal, and unfortunately, for better or worse, captures teenage boys at their frequent worst. While we're talking mixed formats, we can talk about The Flying Sailor here, which is I forget what that's. That's actually a no, that isn't the joint production. It's a Canadian film. That's what it is. And this was about based on a true story about a sailor who was on apparently the docks in I forget where, but he was on the docks when two ships collided and exploded. He was blown 2 kilometers from the blast. He lost all his clothes and somehow survived. And what the animators do with this is that they take essentially a cycle of the sailor tumbling naked through space and use that to mix medias about both what is happening in reality, and there's a beautiful sequence of him flying over like this charred CG cityscape as buildings vaporize underneath him. But he also has flashbacks to his own life. He apparently flashes even further back to the birth of the universe. He flashes forward possibly to the end of the universe. And so they use essentially a miracle, a real life miracle, to talk about the whole of existence, and it is pretty impressive, and very much Film Board of Canada.
Yeah, I'm a big fan
Yeah,
of the Film Board of Canada.
and
They I really miss when nominated or not, there used to be two different animation festivals that would make the movie theaters. The latter one was the Spike and Mike,
Spike and Mike,
and I don't even remember what the earlier
the
was.
was
Name
the International
doesn't exist.
Tournée of Animation, I believe.
Actually, yes, that's it.
Yes, yeah, that
Yeah.
was it. So yeah, they had a big
Which
presence
often
there,
came out of the Toronto Film Festival.
yeah.
Yeah.
They still turn out a lot of stuff, and it's always a good thing when they get a nom in the Oscars. And then the final one is Ice Merchants, which is the collaboration, I think, between Spain, Portugal, and a third country. I'm going to say the UK. I think it is the UK. And this one,
is that to say that it was submitted by those countries, or that simply
it's a co-production,
or is it that the people that worked on it came from those countries?
I would say it's a co-production. If I were to have my druthers, I would say it's actually out of Portugal, but I haven't researched it that deeply. But this one is about a father and son. They live on this house, precariously anchored by ropes to the side of a mountain. They are high up on the mountain, and they use that height to freeze a bin full of water that they chip away from and put into little bags, and then parachute down to the village below to sell the ice to the people. Until one day, the snowbank that's above them begins to melt and weigh down on the house, and the ropes begin to collapse. And unfortunately, in the tilting of the house, they lose the parachute and are facing their demise.
Okay. And no balloons, no Ed Asner.
No balloons, no Ed Asner, no cute little comedy, awkward Boy Scout to come to their rescue or to redeem them. It didn't work out to be a problem, but I was going through it, and the style of animation, it's a 2D animated film, and they bring the director has this very stoic approach to his characters, and a good bulk of the film is about them going through the routine day by day, and there are breaks in the routine, and they show that. But initially, I felt like, why are we seeing this over and over? I get the point. But eventually, once the catastrophe happens, the stoicism of the characters works to its advantage, and it's all done with body language and action, and you begin to feel for these characters. So it's actually quite a strong film in the end. And by the way,
so is that 4 or 5 that we've done now?
That's 5. We did them all.
Okay, very good.
So
was there any genre stuff in the live action shorts?
I did not watch the live action shorts.
So we don't know. Okay.
So we do not know. I will say that the Best Picture nominations, it depends.
As at least for the first time ever, I think in history, one genre film.
There are at least 2 genre films in there, and maybe more. I would. We've got Everything Everywhere All at Once. We've got Avatar: Way of Water.
Oh yes, of course.
Okay. I would go I'm going to be radical in this. I would say the Banshees of Inisherin sort of hose towards a magic realism.
Well, it's
In
an
its,
Irish tale,
it's an
an
Irish
original
tale.
Irish
It's an
tale.
Irish tale. That was also ones that I came into having a lot of trouble with, and by the end I was blown away with it. I came into it thinking, oh God, here we go with the exceedingly rustic Irish tale.
Well,
And
this is a major playwright, and
yeah, he's a major playwright. He also did In Bruges,
right.
which is also a very good film. And like In Bruges, he takes you to a place where you don't necessarily expect he's going to go, but he gets there. And great performances and a very good film. As far as Avatar is concerned, I've expressed myself at little longer length about Avatar. I don't think it's going to win the award.
Oh,
If you want me to be honest,
it doesn't have a chance.
Yeah.
It's really a question between the Banshee and everything
Everywhere all at once.
The little film that could.
Yeah, and
lovely little low budget film.
Yeah, I would agree with you in that, and it could be either of them. The Top Gun and Avatar is the Academy's traditional sop to the mainstream studios, to show that they still exist.
They still respect money.
Yes, exactly.
But Avatar is more than that, because what Cameron does, whether his film is really good or not, and frankly, the first Avatar was, if you watch it in less than 3D on a very large screen, is pretty poor.
Yes.
But if you go see it under the right circumstances, which I did in IMAX 3D, it was a hell of a roller coaster ride.
It's all about the tech. It's all
for
about
the period of time that you are watching it. It's wonderful. And by the time the credits are over and you're walking out of the theater, you're going, what was that?
This has been a constant discussion in the industry, that it came out, was this big thing. It changed the industry because it ushered in 3D, and then nobody has talked about it for 20 years.
Yeah, well, but that I don't think was necessarily Cameron's goal. Cameron's goal is pushing the envelope, not telling great stories.
Yeah.
The last time he did anything involving a good story, it had the word Terminator in it.
Yeah. And bottom line, and it holds with this too, Cameron is not a good writer. He's not a good writer, and he's a slightly better storyteller as a filmmaker. But
he's a top-notch filmmaker.
He's a top-notch filmmaker,
and he has changed the industry. If you didn't have Avatar, you wouldn't have had Gravity, which is a great film.
Yes, yeah. I would agree with that.
So he has
credit as a catalyst.
Yeah. That's a very good way of putting it. Yes. Yeah. He each time he does one of these things, he's pushing the envelope. He's changing the industry, but he's not making great cinema.
No.
Okay. And I think he knows it, and I think he's satisfied.
He probably does, and he's making bank. So what does he care?
Okay. So, but for those few people who have not yet seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, that is just a gem of a movie. And it's all these things that claim to be about the metaverse and this and that, which is the in thing right now in this verse and in a few other. This is a low budget film that does the best job of telling that story. And I like some of the other stories. I liked the Doctor Strange movie and
Mhm.
Spider-Man metaverse movie and all that. But it's because it has, or I should say, they have become a trope. This is one that uh,
In some ways, it subverts the trope.
it does. It does.
Okay.
And
And it brings a greater meaning to it. I think it's a very good film as well. I'm a little reserved about it because I feel in some ways it checks the boxes a little too neatly in things.
yeah, but it wasn't for commercial reasons. This is an
Well,
independent.
that's the thing. You know that A24 has an everything everywhere all at once store, don't you? Where you can buy like packets of googly eyes
Well,
and
well,
butt plug candles.
but that's all after the movie became a hit. It was,
Yeah, but that no, it was before. It's from its inception. And also A24 wouldn't
but
have
that's
been
when, and
involved if
and
they
also
saw
when they
if they
thought it was,
didn't see that
well,
opportunity.
also probably that's when it was still a Jackie Chan film.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was the
that
point of making it.
yeah,
And then Michelle Yeoh took
yeah,
over, and
yeah,
if it were a Jackie Chan film, I would have never seen
yeah.
it, except
We're
maybe.
we're running out of time. Can I just vent on the film that I thought should have been nominated and wasn't?
Well, we could spend hours on that, but go ahead.
Okay, Nope,
Yes.
the Jordan Peele film. I do not understand why that did not get in the Best Picture category, and the only reason I can think of is that they had to put in Top Gun, and that was the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, that may very well be. And there's a whole other discussion to be had about the award process and all
Yeah,
that, and limiting categories to a given number of people, and also never having that wonderful thing that they have in the Hugo Awards and the Nebula Awards called no award, that there was nothing good enough to reach a certain level.
yeah,
You wouldn't do that necessarily in the acting categories, but in the quality categories,
yeah,
it's an important thing.
yeah.
And uh, that has often won in genre
Yeah.
awards. But I'll tell you a very quick joke,
Go ahead.
which is that somebody was saying, well, can you even, and this is an apocryphal joke, somebody said, name 3 films that have been nominated for the Academy Award. And the guy says, Banshees. And the guy says, that's one. And he mentions Everything Everywhere All at Once and says, that's 2. And the guy's silent for a while and he says, can you name a third? Nope. That's 3. You got
Yeah, yeah, okay, I've heard that joke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
a bad one. It's
yeah.
not a bad one.
That was on Saturday Night Live. Did you know
No,
that?
nope,
Yeah, that
nope.
was that. I can't get into the sketch. It was an interesting
But
sketch in terms of what the
two and a
media
half
landscape
minutes.
is now, but we can't do that. Yeah.
2.5 minutes, and you wish to discuss your 3D project.
Yes, that's right. As I mentioned, I am involved with this process called Space Brains 3D. We have just debuted our first release, our first DVD release, Gamera 3D, The Goodman Cut. It is available now on spacebrains3d.etsy.com. That's spacebrains3d.etsy.com,
That's
and it's popularly
ETSY.
priced. Oh,
When you say Etsy,
yeah,
you have to make sure that people don't think that's short for etc.
etc. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yes. ETSY.com.
Yes. Okay, and of course, all one word because that's an Earl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. As I mentioned off air, I know that Max Schmid has been fond of what you've been doing with that. I don't know if he's actually properly seen it, when he knows of it and mentions it to me
I'm
on those very few occasions where I actually go into the station
right.
to do the show.
Okay.
So the
And
premise is that you're taking these public domain grade C movies or B minus movies.
not necessarily grade C, but go ahead.
Well, B minus at least.
Okay, maybe.
And you're turning them into the kind of 3D where people have to wear the red and green glasses, not the polarized.
Yep.
Uh,
These little puppies here.
kind of things that Peter Jackson used and failed with.
Yeah.
But,
My philosophy is films that were not released in 3D but should have been.
okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Probably some good silent films could. It would be interesting to see if somebody could do that, although it's been mucked about with too much as is. But Metropolis.
Metropolis, yeah. Well,
I mean, there's a colorized version.
there's a colorized version.
not
There's a version with the soundtrack by the guy who did the theme for Miami.
Giorgio Moroder.
No, not Giorgio Moroder. The guy who did the theme for Miami Vice.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
But Giorgio Moroder did one that got a commercial release, and it was not bad. It was not bad. For one thing, music by Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
And Queen, which is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah. And also what they did with the colorization on that was rather brilliant, where they did not colorize the whole movie, but you have it in black and white, beautiful restoration job they did. They finally got rid of that horrible jazz soundtrack that the
I remember that.
That the museum had put on years before so they wouldn't show a silent movie without any music. But what they did was, for example, you have the screen and there would be a bottle in the background with bubbly things like you get, or in the famous scene with the robot being created, only the rings around the robot are colorized. It's 95% still black and white, but they take one little thing and put it in color, and that's just enough.
That's what I'm trying to do actually with Space Brains 3D, is that I'm not trying to get an accurate representation of 3D. I'm not technically capable of doing that. This is more an expressionistic or impressionistic approach to 3D, where I'm trying to render things as I to enhance their feel in 3D.
Okay. Well, we're about out of time. What would you say people should go out to see? I would tell people definitely go see the shorts, animated or not, because they need support.
They need support. Most of them are quite worthwhile. I would say for that. If you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, yes, you need to see that.
Although seeing it on the small screen is about as good as seeing it on the big screen.
That's true too.
So but you can wait until it streams or is free or whatever.
Yeah. If we're talking big screen and we're going to go outside of genre here, I would recommend All Quiet on the Western Front.
Everybody does, and that's actually that's got a good shot at it's definitely going to win foreign language.
Yeah, and it deserves it. It is. I was blown away by it,
and a lot of people have hopes for it to win the big award,
which I think it stands a chance of doing, except that it is an international film, and I'm not sure if it's going to cross the threshold this year. I know international films have done it previously. This may not be the year for it.
Yeah. Well, there are some pundits who say it will.
Yeah.
But hey, personally,
what do I know?
I'm for the low budget film that proved that you don't have to have James Cameron's budget in order to make a great film.
great film, and that can bring meaning to a concept that is being overplayed elsewhere in genre media.
Yeah, very much so. So once again, you are found weekly, usually to time permitting, on Hour of the Wolf.
Hour of the Wolf.
How often are you writing for Tor.com?
It's usually monthly. It slips as far as when it comes out. Actually, you're probably better off doing a search on Google on Tor.com Dan Persons than you are searching Tor.com itself. Of course, for some reason, their search engine is kind of haywire.
Yeah,
as far as that's concerned.
yeah. Well, that's not a big budget
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah,
They turn out very good stuff. They have very good writers,
yes.
and I like reading them. But they're not a big budget website in the way of IO9 or whatever it's called nowadays.
True that.
Okay. So we're 45 minutes into our 40 minutes. For those who want to actually see a video of this conversation, you can go to my channel on YouTube, and it's there already.
Cool.
Okay, and you just go to YouTube and you type my name into the search engine. YouTube, of course, is part of Google, so hopefully the search should work.
Thank you for listening. If you want to write me, send that email to hotwolfreviews@upstartcompany.com. And remember, if you love science fiction, fantasy, enchantment, and the imagination, listen to Jim Freund's Hour of the Wolf, most every Monday at 9 p.m. ET on WBAI 99.5 FM in New York, and streaming on WBAI.org or through TuneIn. The Hour of the Wolf Reviews is produced by me, Dan Persons, recorded at the studios of Upstart Company, and is an Hour of the Wolf production. Take care.